This is a recording of George Fernsler of 901 Moores River Drive, Lansing, Michigan, 48910. George's phone number is area code 517-484-2387. The recording was made by Jim Walkinshaw at the Oldsmobile History Center at 4000 North Grand River in Lansing on August 31st, 1988.
I can't remember dates.
That's all right. You
Too
just
well.
get us approximately, and that's all that's necessary, I think. So perhaps, George, you could start then with your early experiences at Durant and just bring us forward.
Just a minute. Oh, no, I was thinking a little bit about this before. All right. I worked at Durant the first time in 1927 in the summertime.
All right.
And the reason I know it was 1927 isn't that when Lindbergh flew the ocean?
I think that's right, yes.
I remember that.
Uh-huh.
I also remembered another thing that went on. Is the guy out the bath blew up the school bath.
Oh, boy, I remember reading that too. Yeah.
Remember reading that?
Yeah.
And
Now, what were you doing there?
I worked on the assembly line
Okay.
in the summertime.
Uh-huh.
And I worked there, and they made Durant and the Star, and I was on the Star assembly line.
Were there two different assembly lines?
It was one assembly line,
Okay.
but they made a little car called the Star,
Yes.
and a larger car called the Durant, then a larger car than that yet. So Flint, but that was made in Flint. It
All right.
wasn't made in Lansing.
Okay.
But when they closed the plant in Flint, I was one of the fellows that they asked to go to Flint after work for 5 evenings, and we drove all the Flint cars they had over there in their warehouse or factory. We drove them over to Lansing, and they sold them out of Lansing.
Well, I'll be darned. Okay.
And the manager there was a fellow named Krieger.
Krieger.
And I can remember the fellows I worked for. The general foreman was Joe Haney.
Okay.
I wrote these down. I was thinking
Yeah, that's
about
all
it.
right.
And the foreman on the line was Joe Coonrod. And the fellow on the chassis line was Earl Halterman.
Halterman is the name that's
And
familiar.
when Durant folded up, he went to Olds.
Okay.
He worked in safety as a safety engineer
That's
at
fine.
Oldsmobile.
Uh-huh.
And
What did you do specifically there, George? What kinds of things did you have to do on the car?
what they did way back then, they had a rod that run across the chassis at a right angle,
Mm-hmm.
and it had little cuts in the ends of them.
Okay.
And I had to put on a little lever about that long.
I'll be darned.
And
Was
it
it
had what
brakes?
they call a moon key.
Yeah.
And we'd put the little moon key in there, and it'd stick up about that far.
Uh-huh.
We'd drive this lever on, and that was part of the brakes.
Oh, yeah.
They had mechanical brakes.
Mechanical brake. Uh-huh.
And that's all I did.
Yeah.
After that, I didn't work there anymore. I was at home then, see, when I was
Uh-huh.
younger.
Yeah.
And
Did you start that job, George, right out of high school, like, or?
No, I was out of high school.
Okay.
No, I'll take that back. I didn't have my 4 years in. But I was in the summertime. I worked there.
Like a summer job.
Summer job.
Mhm,
Yeah, that's
mhm.
what I got. And then I didn't go back to there. After that, I stayed at home the next summer, and helped my dad. We lived on a farm.
Okay.
Helped my dad, because I had a brother that had cancer,
Oh.
and my dad spent time in Ann Arbor with him, and I stayed at home and helped farm that summer.
Where was the farm?
Out between
Mulligan?
It was south on the Mulligan Road,
Okay.
where Route 50 goes by.
Oh, yes.
that cut off the corner of the farm.
Oh, right on that
There.
corner. Uh-huh. Okay.
And so I stayed home, and then 1928, just getting away from working.
It's all right.
I worked on the farm, and another fellow and I, we left August the 1st, took a trip through, went to North Dakota, took in the harvest, and we was there about 5 weeks. We left there and we went up through Utah, Yellowstone Park, went to Tillamook, Oregon. And he had his grandmother lived there. That's the reason we went there. And we just scouting around, looking, seeing things. We went up to Spokane, Washington, and down along the coast. And we started back about the 1st of November. Went down through California and Arizona, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. I don't know. Went into St. Louis, Missouri, and come back home. Got home just before Thanksgiving. And I stayed at home for a while. I didn't have any job. And another fellow and I, we heard about a job at Durant again. And so he came over and we got a job. I worked there about a month. And then I left Durant, and I had a chance to go on an apprentice course at Oldsmobile,
Okay.
tool and die making.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what date that was. And I worked in a tool room in Building 40. And I got 35 cents an hour.
At all?
At all,
Uh-huh.
for apprentice.
Uh-huh.
And the way the apprentice worked on wages, the first 6 months of the year, you get 35 cents an hour when you start out.
Okay.
After 6 months, you get a nickel raise. Then I got 40 cents at the end of the year, see?
Oh.
And it was 40, and 45, 50, 55.
Uh-huh. Every 6 months out?
Every 6 months, you get a nickel raise.
Oh, yeah.
End of 4 years, why? I got top money.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And some of the fellows I worked for, the superintendent was Fred Cedarleaf.
Okay.
And the big boss downstairs, I guess you would call him general foreman,
Mm-hmm.
was Byron Athey. And they had 3 foremen. I don't know how to remember all this, but they had foremen, or 4. 4, I guess it was. Had Ed Judge and Rube Shipman and Walt Clippert. And a fellow named Clark.
Okay.
Ed Judge was lathes, and Miller Rube Shipman was Miller Machines, and Clark and Walt Clippert was the bench man.
Mm-hmm. Was the tool room was right there in 40, just like it was?
It had been on the west side of the plant, but it had moved there before I started up, below Building 40.
All right. And now, was Building 40 open above at that time?
It was, and the second floor wasn't complete. It had big open squares in it.
Uh-huh.
And they had offices up there along the side, and had a railing, and you could walk there and you could look right down on the tool room.
Oh, yeah.
And well, I didn't spend the full 4 years in the shop. I think about the 3rd year, they sent me upstairs on design.
Okay. Tool design?
Tool design.
Okay.
And I worked there for a fellow named Raleigh Wilhite.
Now, that would have been about 1930-ish, maybe? Do you think?
Well, it was probably a little later than that.
All right.
Probably a little later than that.
Okay.
Because during Depression, 1933, 32 and 33,
Yes.
I was single, of course,
Okay.
and they had to lay a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And I didn't get laid off at first because I was on apprentice course.
Mhm.
But then a little later I got laid off, and I was off for 2 months.
Okay.
And I went home, and I helped my dad on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a letter to the mail, and they called me back. And I went back to work, and I worked in the tool room. And then I went upstairs.
All right.
I get a little mixed up here.
That's okay.
And
Working good.
so after work on the design, they had a what they call a plant layout department.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little fellow named Shorty May who was running it.
Okay.
And he was there just a short while. I don't think over a month or so. When I went over there, they switched me over there.
Okay.
And then they had a fellow named Henry Summers.
Oh yes, I remember Henry.
And after that, why, I just stayed there.
Okay.
And well, let's see. I stayed on plant layout, and I guess I stayed there till during the war. And
What were you doing when you first came into layout then? What area were you working on?
I was more or less a group leader,
Okay.
and I was working on press metal,
Okay.
paint,
Mhm.
and sheet metal finish.
Where was all that happening at that time? What buildings was that all in? Do you remember?
Well, the press plant was in Building 52,
Okay.
and the sheet metal finish was in 27B,
Mm-hmm.
and paint was in
27A maybe?
on the west side there.
Yeah, along Division Street.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was 3 floors high.
Yes, 27A. that was.
27A,
Yeah.
A, B, and C.
Right.
Yeah, all right. So that's the areas I had.
Okay.
And I can't remember some of the guys. So I worked on that, and I stuck around on that thing till during the war. 1942.
41 it started.
41,
Yeah,
42.
Yeah.
And just was skipping a lot of stuff I can't remember.
It's all right.
And when the war broke out, about that time or short before, we had a change of management. Had Skinner come in.
Okay.
Jerry Skinner.
Yeah.
And so when Skinner came in, shortly after they quit making automobiles, and I got put on layout for war work,
All right.
doing the same thing I was for automobile.
Okay.
And I made the gun layout with a 75 millimeter and 90 millimeter tubes.
Okay.
And also we made a breech block. And that was the tube was made in building 30, is there a 36?
Yes, that's to the south
East.
or to the east of 40.
Yeah, all right, 36.
Uh-huh.
That's where they were made. And then we had another building in there called 38,
Yes.
and that's where the breech block was made.
Okay.
And Al Porter helped on that.
All right.
Or helped, in fact, he did most of it.
Uh-huh.
And they made a 37 millimeter aircraft gun, and Al Porter laid that out.
All right.
Tell you, mention him because he probably's already told you that.
He was here, yeah.
And I can remember the 37 millimeter gun. They had out in the parking lot north of building 38. They had dug a great big trench, and they made a firing range underground out there.
Okay.
And that's where they tested them.
Did you get down in that?
I visited that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a pass that was issued from Bud Brandel, his personnel,
Yeah.
and Skinner. I was drafted, and I think it was 3 of us or 4 of us, and he got deferments for us, unbeknownst to me.
Oh.
He went to somebody in the government, and I got a deferment, so I didn't have to. They figured that us 3 fellows were more important there than it would be in the Army.
Okay.
So I stayed there all during the war.
How about that? Uh-huh.
And I don't know who the other 2 were. I think it was 3 of us. Well, anyway, I didn't have to go.
But the little pass you had lets you into those kinds of places?
Yeah. If you went into the gun shops where they're making these guns,
Mm-hmm.
the cannons, you couldn't get in unless you had a certain pass,
Oh.
and they generally had a security guard there,
Right by the doors?
right by the door.
Uh-huh.
And if you wanted to get in there, you had to have a good reason to get in there.
Uh-huh.
But with this pass on it had my picture and fingerprint,
Oh, gee, yeah.
and,
Uh-huh.
and you just show the card and you go
Yeah.
in.
Okay.
They made the 75 millimeter cannon first, and then these fit on tanks. They
Okay.
call them tank cannons.
All right.
And then later on, they made 90 millimeter.
Where were those made?
They was made over the same line.
Well, they were.
Mhm.
Oh.
Made over the same
Down
line.
there in that
with a
36?
with a few extra
Uh-huh.
special machines, and these cannons had rifles,
Yeah, the
water
rifling down them, yeah.
for accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wondered how they did that, but it's very simple. They have a long machine, and they run a rod through it, and they put a round cutter on it.
Mhm.
Cutter with
Right.
notches, and then they pull it through, and it would turn when it goes through.
Twist it? Mm-hmm.
When you get down the other end, you take the cutter off, run it back through.
Mm-hmm.
Get on the other end, you put the cutter on it,
Just keep pulling her through.
pull it through till you got your depth.
Uh-huh.
And
Now, all that time, George, was the layout department. Where were you physically?
I was still in Building 40.
Okay, you were in Florida.
Yeah.
All right.
Then after they set it up, Carl Fisher was my boss then.
All right.
And he sent me out and put me in the shop in different places to help out. If they had to make a change on setups or your operations would change, you'd
Mhm.
have to get place machines and get your prints and write your orders and all that stuff. And Packard Motor Car Company was running then, and they was making war materials. And they sent me and another fellow by the name of George Adams, and we was in Detroit for a week at the Packard Motor Car Company.
Oh, really?
And getting any ideas that we could pick up.
On how to do the job better?
How to do the job better. Or
Uh-huh.
if they had some operations that they did better than what we was doing, or a better way of doing it, well, we picked those up. Then we
Yeah.
had to report those back.
Okay.
And after the war, that's about all. I didn't change much. I did about the same thing all the way through the war.
Okay.
And after the war, I also spent some time at the old forge plant
Okay.
on the line helping package. They packaged these projectiles.
Okay.
And after the war, I went back on automotive.
Okay.
That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of things went on, but time went on. And
Sure. Was everybody during the wartime very, very busy? Was it the busy time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of help come in. They brought a lot of people. There's a lot of paperwork and stuff going on. And they was looking for ideas and ways of doing things. You had a lot of new fellows on processing
Yeah.
and manufacturing ideas. You had people buying machinery
Okay.
and buying whatever they needed to make whatever is making.
Yeah.
And also, besides the guns that I was on, they made two projectiles, shell projectiles.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And they called them the M66 and the M67.
All right.
And those are machined and made up in building 52.
52. Okay.
And they also...
Had they moved out all the presses then and all the machinery that was in there?
No, they didn't move them all out.
Okay.
They made room for them.
Uh-huh.
And then they also, over in building 32 on the west side,
All right.
they made a armor-piercing shell
All right.
called the MK-29.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a projectile about that long, big, and I
full
forget
on.
the size of it.
Uh-huh.
I think it was a 7 for a Navy gun, and it was about that big around.
3 or 4 inches in diameter.
Probably,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Uh-huh.
And it had a long, and then you made a cap for it,
All right.
and the cap was sweatered on to that nose.
All right.
And the idea was that when I hit another ship with armor plate on it,
Uh-huh.
it was shocking, and the projectile would give it a second bang.
Another shot. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that was forged out at the forge plant and shipped to building 32. Then it was machined over there.
All right.
It was machined, heat treated, and all put together.
All of that was done in the heat treating and everything was done in 32?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And they were sent out, and then the cap was put on by somebody else.
All right. After they put a charge in, probably.
Yeah, I
or
don't know.
something.
Yeah, it had a hollow in the middle,
Mhm.
about that big.
Okay.
I understand it was filled up with explosives or nitroglycerin or something
Yeah.
like that. And it
That's
exploded
what
also.
burned the hole through.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And there was a fellow, the name of that, the superintendent of that name was Ted Dykstra.
Oh, okay.
And we had 3 Dyksters in the Oldsmobile. You had Jim Dykstra was in design, product design.
Oh, yeah.
You had
Jack Dyke.
John Dykstra,
John
was
Dykstra.
manufacturing manager,
Uh-huh.
and then that was his brother.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Ted was his brother also. And after the war, well, he left and he went into warehouses.
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether the warehouse was for General Motors or not, but he took
Okay.
a job being a warehouse manager. And after all this manufacturing in there, why we had to get all this machinery out, get ready to make automobiles.
Okay.
And so I was in on that. And when we had a company out of Detroit did quite a bit of work, Darren and Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they had moved all these machines out, and I made contact with them for a lot of machines, clearing out building 32 and 37,
Mm-hmm.
all the machinery, taking them out.
All of that, did that just go back to an arsenal someplace?
I don't know. I don't know where the machinery did go.
Uh-huh.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
They got it out of Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
They got it out of the factory.
Yeah.
And I don't really know where it goes. So,
Now, George, we made shells and cannons. Anything else we made during World War II that you can remember? That
they made these parts, airplane parts.
airplane engine parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, as I recall, that was Rolls-Royce, is an automobile company in England.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that's who was making parts for. We didn't make any engine complete. We just
Okay.
made parts.
Uh-huh.
And the engines, as I understand, was made for airplanes
All right. Where were we doing that work? Down the engine plant?
in Building 28,
28. Okay.
engine plant.
Uh-huh.
And Elmer Corbin, did you remember him?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he was chief inspector.
Okay.
And whenever they had any trouble with these Army inspectors were all
Uh-huh.
in there, they'd go to Elmer Corbin.
I see. He'd
And
mother hen them around.
He would show them around
Uh-huh.
and talk them into this and that.
Yeah.
And also, during the war, tail end of the war, I got shifted off of plant layout, and I went to building 28.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one thing brings up another here.
That's good.
And they used to have a gun they called the bazooka.
Okay.
But we didn't make it,
Yeah.
but we made a projectile for it.
The rocket.
A rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used to make a little round thing like this, and it's all full of holes. And the holes didn't go straight through; they went through on an angle.
All right.
And they pierced them out on a press.
Oh my Lord.
And the object of that was that would fit in this gun. And when this explode this shell, projectile, this is back here, the air had to make a turbulence, you know.
To spin it?
To spin it, help spin
Oh.
it. And the shell was made so that I guess it had fins or something on it. This would hit and start spinning, and that give it accuracy.
Oh yeah.
And that was one you held up to your shoulder, you know.
Uh-huh. And fired, yeah.
You fired it. And that was in, I had that department of making that little round thing.
So now you made the whole rocket there, did you?
No.
All the parts, or
No, we just made parts.
just parts?
Made parts.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Just made parts. We made 50, 60,000 of them.
Oh my
A
God.
lot of them. And we also made another part for a shell, and they called it the cone. It looked like an ice cream cone,
Okay.
and it would screw onto a shell, and that would, so you didn't have a blunt nose. Help give it accuracy. And I had a press line with about 7 presses in it, did 7 operations, and we made those. We made thousands of those.
Uh-huh. And that was all done down in 28?
Down in 28.
Uh-huh.
And those were packaged and shipped out.
Now, was all the engine machinery still there, or was that kind of moved out also?
It pretty well moved out.
Uh-huh.
Pretty well moved out.
Uh-huh. Engine assembly line stay, or did it go?
We didn't have really a assembly line there.
Okay.
We just made parts and we cart them, you know. to
No, I
package.
mean the old engine assembly line, was that kept,
Oh.
or did that get torn out too?
Yeah. As far as I know, it was yeah, until 28.
Yeah.
It was
Uh-huh.
gone,
Yeah.
yeah. And these were put in cardboard packages and shipped out
Okay.
to someplace.
Yeah.
I don't know where. And let's see, what else do we do? Made the MK-29, we made the M66, 67, the cannon, the machine gun, and the parts for the airplane, and the cones, and the bazooka gun. That's about all I can remember
Okay.
thinking.
Well, that's a good rundown of what we did there.
And when it was over, getting back to that, when these people would come in to pick up machines or move them out, I don't know, Jim Baker, did you ever know
Sure.
him?
Oh, sure.
Well, he did some, and I did some contacting these contractors come in and move them out.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was all over, I went back to plant layout.
Okay. Now, you guys were all still hourly kind of people at that time
No.
in layout?
No, I
Or
was salary for years.
all right.
When I was working on plant layout way back after I went from downstairs tool room to
Okay.
design to layout. That was probably, see, I went there 19, 20, 29, 30, 31, 32. About 35, I went on salary,
salary.
and I always stayed on salary.
Okay. Okay.
But there's a lot going on between there that I can't remember.
Well, that's all right.
Here, I kind of run through this maybe. Went through Durant.
Yeah.
When I went to Oldsmobile, the general manager was Gray Bernard,
Huh. All right.
and the works manager was Jack Carter. He's the fellow that got me in on the,
All right.
he was works manager.
Yeah.
And he's the fellow that I've met, and he asked me if I didn't like to go in on the tool and die design because I didn't have any training to do anything else. And so I went in on Tool and die design. And I can remember some of the fellow people there that was there.
Okay.
Charles Blades.
Oh, yes.
The old
Got lots
blacksmith.
of Charlie Blades pictures here.
Have you?
Yes.
Well, I knew him personally.
You did?
Oh, yes.
Did he tell you any of his good stories?
Oh, he was full of them. He would tell you how he used to hammer out this and hammer out that on his forge, you know.
Isn't that?
And he'd make the steering knuckles and hammer them out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever they wanted a new part on experimental, they couldn't buy it. Nobody. A couple of weeks later, I got a letter from him thanking me for the picture, and he says, "George,
Isn't that
I
neat?
don't recall you." He says, "But I'm 1 month from 90, and I don't remember a lot of things."
Isn't that something?
And he sent me a nice little letter
Isn't that
and thanked me
something?
for this. I made a duplicate of it,
Huh.
and this was taken the same time.
Oh, yeah, because that is the picture. That's the real picture right there.
Yeah, I had 3 of those. See?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Wonder
This
who
fella,
who
this-
made these? Doesn't say who photographed it.
I got them from they gave me one.
Did they? Uh-huh.
This guy's dead.
Uh-huh.
This fella, he left Oldsmobile
Yeah.
and he went to Western Electric. Yeah, wait a minute, not Western.
General Electric? John Burnham went to General Electric.
No. He went to
Westinghouse.
Westinghouse.
Westinghouse. Okay.
Westinghouse.
Yeah, Westinghouse.
Yeah,
That was it.
Westinghouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was my boss.
Uh-huh. Okay.
He was on manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, that's neat. I'd like to, if you don't mind, borrow those. If you don't mind loaning those to
No,
us.
as long as I get them back.
Oh, yeah, I'll get them back to you, so.
Now, these things are maybe a little too personal, I don't know. Here's a nice letter Skinner wrote me because I was running. I was, during the war, Henry Summers didn't have anything to do with layout.
Mm-hmm. What was he doing?
Huh?
What was he doing? Working on packaging at that time?
Later on, he did.
Okay.
After the war, they put in Phil Cartwright and Henry Summer went over on packaging.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's a good letter. If you don't mind letting us make a copy of that, because 2 things. It's got the letterhead stationery that we used back in the war period, and it talks about this sort of thing, which must have gone on all throughout the plant, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind loaning those things, well, I'd like to reproduce that.
And this here was a little citation he gave me.
Now, did they do this? How did they? What was the purpose in that?
War bond drive.
Okay.
Right here, it tells you.
5th War Bond Loan Drive. Oh yes. Uh-huh. Okay.
The
And so-
fellows I was with, I got 100%, and
Mhm.
that's the reason I got that.
So when people achieve that, that's kind of what they gave to the individuals.
I
that
guess
had
so.
groups
I got
like that.
one. I don't remember. I suppose everybody else did too, the part.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I thought that was kind of nice little
Yes,
award.
it is. Can I borrow that also?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to know some of the fellows in my department,
Okay.
there's Wendell Myers,
Okay. I did not know Wendell Myers.
George Adams,
No.
John
Johnny
Turk,
Turk, of course I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam Stanaway,
Okay.
Fred Twist, Ernie Stoppel, Wade Moore, Carl Shop.
Yeah.
You know Carl.
Oh yes, knew Carl very
Eleanor
well.
Spalding.
And Eleanor. Yeah.
She was not my second, well, I guess you could say. She was our typist.
She was everybody's typist, so to
Well,
speak.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, we were separate once.
Mhm.
I moved out of Building 40, and they put me over on the MK-29 because they was having a lot of trouble with the process.
Yeah.
I don't want to say all this thing, pat myself on
Oh,
the
sure,
back. I
do
don't
it.
want to do that.
Yeah.
But the MK-29 shell, I was working on the cannons and the M66 and the M67 shell stuff. We had all we could do. So they took a fellow out of product engineering, a young fellow, nice fellow. You probably wouldn't know him. His name was Becker. But anyway, he was a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and he was a GM Tech graduate. And they put him over on the MK-29 because they figured that I had enough to do where I was at.
Okay.
So he worked under Tom Darton
Oh, all right.
and made this setup on the MK-29, Building 32. And they had a lot of trouble. And he left, he quit. And one morning I went in and Carl Fisher says, as today you're working over in Building 32. And I said, maybe I don't want to work in 32. He says, well, that's where you're working. Did you know Carl Fisher?
No.
Oh, he was pretty big, tall guy, and what he said was it. He didn't say anything more. So he says, well, you'll be working under Tom Darton. Because Tom Darton has a layout. He's worked, that's his program. And so I went over, and they sent Tilly over with me, or Eleanor.
Yeah,
I always call her
oh,
Tilly.
sure, Tilly was there.
And I had a fellow named Fitzgerald, Hess, and Tooley. And we went over there, and we were supposed to analyze, or not analyze really, but look the layout over, look the plan over, and see what we can do. So we looked it over, and we found out what was wrong. I said, there's having wrong trouble. They run the, I'll give you the details.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, the railroad track run in over here, see, and here was big pits,
Okay.
and out here is machining.
Okay, that must have been on the south side of the building, that railroad track? Or was that on the...
It's on the north side.
On the north side, all right.
Well, they brought these here projectiles, forged
Mhm.
projectiles, in the forge plant off of Saginaw Street. They
Yeah.
brought them in an open gondola car,
Okay.
railroad car.
Yeah,
And they'd run them in here on this railroad track.
yeah,
And we had a bridge crane over here. I didn't make this layout. This
Yeah.
is the other guy made it.
yeah.
And they had a bridge crane over here, and they had a big magnet on it.
All right.
It would pick up about 4 or 5 of these. These things weighed about 125
Ooh,
pounds.
big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the machine. And they had a pit here, and a pit here, and a pit here.
Okay.
And they go by heats, what they call heats.
All
Heat
right.
treated, see,
All right.
different heats.
Yeah.
Well, what was happening? They'd pick these up, and one of them every now and then would drop off in the wrong pit.
Oh, no.
See? So when they Brunelled them, tested them, they didn't come out right.
Yeah.
So what were they? They were scrap.
Mhm.
All right, that was the first thing we found out. And over here they had the big ovens where they heat treated them.
Okay.
So they go from the pit to the heat treat.
All the ovens were inside the building?
Inside the building. They had the road track here and the pits here,
Okay.
and right here is the ovens.
Okay.
And you know, during the war, you can't quit. Well, they had some machines in here, some lathes and stuff, right here. This is about the end of the building, side of
Okay.
the building. These were hot, and a high temperature, see,
Coming out of the oven.
buildings, you know, and the furnaces themselves. And some of the people wouldn't work there.
Oh. Too hot.
Too hot, too hot. That was the second one. And then when they go down the line, they didn't have any way to handle these except on a little roller conveyor. And they had the women working too, you know. And these things were, well, when they was finished, they weighed around 125 pounds. And they couldn't get these off and get them into the lathes.
Oh, boy.
And so we went in there. So we didn't know first how to do this. These pits weren't too big. Oh, about half the size this room this way and this way. See,
Okay.
a whole lot of
8 or 10
forgings.
feet square. Mhm.
So what we did, we made a big butter plate about so thick and put a hook right in the middle of it. This thing had the bridge crane on. And whenever we would get a new car, a train, gondola car, parts in here, we had 2 covers. we'd put one over this pit and one over this pit, so if they dropped off, well, they didn't mix.
Oh.
Get down the neck. Simple enough, see?
Yeah.
And if you want to use this pit down here, well, you'd cover these two. Of course, you didn't have trouble because you didn't pass
Right.
that. But you had to protect this one and this one. Well, that solved that problem.
How about that? Simple solution.
Yeah, simple solution.
Yeah.
So the ovens here, we didn't have any room to move them. So we put a insulator partition right around there
Okay.
and put suction fans on. Exhaust in the air. We got by with it. People would go back in there and work.
See, the ovens would have been along the...
It was on the east side, almost in the middle.
Almost in the middle.
And we had a little office over here on this side.
Okay.
And then what we did, these lathes went down through here. We used to run these little shells down on this conveyor, just a narrow conveyor, little concave rulers, and run them down there. We put when they get up here, you'd have a lathe here, and here was your billet. We run our little rail right across the top of above and put a hoist on it and pick it up with a
Little
hook.
hook.
Drop it in the lathe and center it, machine it. When you get through, you drop it back on here and go on down.
So that would help the folks that had to handle
Well,
it.
you didn't have to manhandle it so much. And we had other things down the line like that. We corrected them best we could.
Yeah. But trying to solve those problems of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. They couldn't get production on the thing. They set production.
Yeah.
And this Ted Dykstra was a pretty good driver too. He was a nice fellow, and he was all good. And he was really up in the air. He was wanted to quit, and old John Dykstra, his brother said, he told him, no, we had to get that out. And we helped him everything we could. By golly, we got back up to what their production wanted. So we stayed there till the end of the war was over.
I'll be there.
Then we went back to 40.
Okay.
So we helped out there.
Yeah.
That was some of the things we did.
Yeah.
Kind of analyze things, or go over there and see what was happening, what was wrong, and try to correct them.
Right.
So.
Okay. And you don't mind loaning these things?
No, as long as they get them back.
Oh yeah, we'll do
I know
that.
you'll take care of
Yeah,
them.
we won't. It's not a case of losing.
I brought
anything,
these.
so.
I didn't know whether
Oh yeah, that's
you want to see those.
because see, these are things which we don't have any record of these kinds of things.
Well, don't you?
And so
That's
it's all.
nice. I like to keep that.
Yeah, well, that's all. Yeah, we'll just reproduce it and give you back the original.
Well, if you go home tonight,
So.
stop by the house and I'll give you that a little bit.
Okay, I can do that because I go right by. I go down Logan Street on the way home.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm just 2 blocks east.
Yeah, I'll just
I
come
don't
over
know,
there.
901.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
probably a lot of stuff, but I'm
No,
not too
that's-
accurate on
Oh,
some
no,
of the
no.
stuff.
This is all, see, because this knowledge is something that a lot of folks don't have, and so it's not, you don't know. And
You don't want this knows.
what I thought I might do, George, is just take a minute with you, and I've got a bunch of maps, and if you don't mind, we'll start back about when you started, and see, 35, I think, would be the first map that it will be usable. This is just and this map is pretty well detailed as to what is where, I think.
Yeah.
So it kind of covers generally what was going on. And 35 would have been about, let's see, you would have been there then, wouldn't you? That would have been in...
Yeah, I was there in 35,
Yeah.
because I remember Social Security come in.
Yeah, so
And I wasn't, when I first come in, I wasn't old enough to get it. You had to be 30, I think, to get it.
Uh-huh.
And then later on, a year or so later, why, everybody got it.
See, when did you retire from the plant, George?
I retired May 1st, 1967.
67, okay. Now, in this time frame in the 30s, you were in the Building 40 area. Okay. Okay. And then, now, what happens to our maps is that as you go forward here in 41, now we're into the war period.
Yeah.
And this talks about all of the guns down here in 36 and 38.
This will help me probably.
Okay.
See, this is 36?
Yes.
I can't see. I should have brought my glasses.
That's all right. I can read them.
36. Well, this was the tubes.
In Building 36 North, kind of the north end.
Well, all the way through.
All right.
Whole place.
All right.
We put a tube in a big long box. They had big long board boxes,
Yeah.
about so wide. And we put them in there to ship them.
Okay.
Ship them on a railroad car.
So you must have shipped out on like this railroad
Ship.
track out of 36?
Yeah, one of them. I don't know. Excuse me. Probably. I think that railroad track run in there.
Mm-hmm. Shows
Yeah.
it coming into
Yeah,
the dock.
that's probably where they shipped them out.
Okay.
Now, you're just talking about machining.
Mm-hmm.
Right here. This is 38.
That's in 38. Uh-huh.
What is this?
That says light sheet metal press. Back in the back half of 36.
What I'm trying to get through my noodle here is where we machine that tube.
Well, just, yeah, okay.
It might have been on the south end of this.
Uh-huh.
I don't have anything going.
Okay.
But it don't seem like it was in 50. It don't seem like it was
Well,
in.
wait a minute. We'll come over to 37
Okay.
in a bit here.
Okay.
Let's see. At that time, see, 34 said parts shipping.
Parts shipping.
So
yeah,
there wasn't
for
much going on.
automobile. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing in there except
Yeah.
shipping.
Okay. And then the engine plant it showed mostly all engine stuff down here in 41, so we hadn't started any work in that point in
Yeah,
time.
probably not.
And building 32 out here was all, says shipping, export shipping
Yeah,
again.
export shipping, yeah.
Okay.
Used to have a railroad track run right in there.
Okay, maybe that one?
Yeah, probably.
One of those two, I think. It doesn't show it dotted, but I think they ran in the building.
Yeah, they loaded in the building.
Okay, this is in 43. Now you see this one hasn't got any detail on it whatsoever, so all I know is there's where the buildings were, but I don't know what was where in 43, so that doesn't help much as far as, oh yeah, here, see the railroad track in 32?
Yeah.
Went full length, it shows it, full length in the building.
I remember it going full length. It didn't
Mhm.
show it on the other.
No, it didn't show it on another map.
It's parts and service.
Yep, building 62. Okay, now we're out of the war. And once again, see, there's no detail on what was where, but 56, see, existed apparently in 43.
It used to be vacant.
Well, it shows it in 41. 56 partially there in 41.
Oh, did it? Way
Yeah,
back then?
yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't there in 35.
No.
And then, as time went on, we must have filled in that last space after 46 sometime with the rest of 56, because here in 47, 56 was a full-length building. So at that point in time, we must have had all of the die room and the presses and all that stuff you were mentioning early on in there.
27, yeah.
Here's 27A.
No, this 20, yeah, 27A.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
and 27B.
Yeah, yeah.
And
What's that right there?
that's building 130. That was that funny little building in the.
Yeah.
That was where the dip tanks used to be, I think.
Catch-all, yeah.
That big bond, not the, yeah, the
Bond, not
the
a bond
prime,
right,
the
but
big prime tanks.
Prime, yeah.
Used to be inside of there.
The bonder right was over in the end of 37, or 27.
Down in just south of 130 someplace, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Down in
right
here?
in, or south, right in
Uh-huh,
there.
uh-huh.
The bonder right.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is what I was trying to do, 16A, 16B,
That,
16C.
that should have been the old assembly line, where the assembly
Then you
line.
got 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
I used to know all these.
Well, when you go use them, that's just like
I've been gone 20 years.
yeah, like I find that I even have trouble. I haven't been gone that long on occasion forgetting things. So, okay, now we're in 48, and see, things look fairly similar still. Let's see, this once again, it doesn't identify. It just
What does that say?
says 506 cylinders. And I suspect what this was is a map that somebody made showing storage or something, and so it's the only one I've got, and it's scribbled on, but it at least kind of shows the plant the way it was.
I used to have a print of the press plants, blueprints. I took them with me,
Of the
and I
interior?
destroyed them.
Of the inside?
Yeah,
Oh,
placing on machines.
yeah. That would have been nice to put away.
Of course, I don't have those.
Yes.
I tell you, you get rid of stuff.
Oh,
after
sure,
so
after a
many
while,
years.
you throw it away. Now, building 37 is here. See, here's building 37.
Yeah.
And this is 1950. We tore down all these little old buildings. which were those maintenance shops you mentioned, the old 1B and 1D and C and 2A.
Let's go back here just a
Okay.
little ways. I want to see something.
How far back? Want to go?
35. It's
Okay.
good. Is there a power plant in here?
Yeah, there's a power plant. There's a smokestack right
I
here.
did want to mention. I
Yeah.
remember when they took that down.
Okay.
That was a smokestack for the power plant.
Right, right.
And they hired somebody, I'm sure, to take that smokestack down. And everybody's wondering how they was going to take the darn thing down. And when they was going to take it down. See. And I was one of them too, I was curious. And I heard they was going to take it down on a weekend. And so it used to be you couldn't go into the plant, you know, if it wasn't working like on the weekend. They had our little restrictions here. And I drive down the street, see if the smokestack was still there.
Uh-huh.
I lived in North End.
Yeah.
And no, still up. And well, one weekend I went by there. I think it was on Sunday afternoon. And the smokestack wasn't there.
Let's go.
And Monday morning, that was one of the first things I want to know. How did they take that smokestack down? So I can't remember who was plant engineer. It might have been Harry Beeman.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And I went over to plant engineering department and I said, how did they take that stack down? And I think the guy's name was Barlow.
Okay.
Barlow.
Yeah, Barlow was there. Yeah.
And
name.
I think it was Barlow instead of Beeman. Maybe it's the other way around. But anyway, he said what they did, they took out some bricks on the north side and chiseled them out, you know, holes.
Yeah.
And they put dynamite in there some way and blew the north end out, and the thing tipped right over.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, well, what a simple solution.
Yeah.
I had the picture they was going to start the top and knocking the things off.
Oh, yeah.
I can remember that thing.
We've got someplace in the file that complete set of photos that shows that thing coming down.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find it before you go and show them to you.
No, it's all right.
It was kind of an interesting sequence that we ran across. So, well, anyway,
I'll go back into your part.
Okay, 37. Now this is where I start to remember cannons. In 37, we had the two high bays in 37.
Yeah.
And then I remember machining down at this end, down around the powerhouse. And then there was that big tank you mentioned where we kind of stuck barrels down into for, I don't remember what it was for, whether it was cleaning or heat treating or something.
Degreasing, I think.
That was over in here. And then those two high bays were pretty much filled up with all this cannon turning equipment.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we didn't have the cannons over.
At this point in time, see, this was all engine plant down here in 36 and 38.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The machining and, isn't that funny? I can't remember that.
Well, you may not have had that at a particular area. That may have been somebody else.
I had the area.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I had all the cannon.
Uh-huh.
The machining we had a assembly line that went down.
Must have, because we had a breech block and something else we had to put together. Now, don't get it mixed up with World War II cannon, because that's a different cannon. See, this was it was a big 90 millimeter. It was a big baby. It had a bore, a pretty good sized bore.
You mean for Korean War?
Yeah.
I didn't work. I don't remember working on the Korean War. I think Al Porter worked.
He might have. Yeah, he might have. So anyhow.
Oh.
Because I remember that when I came in '53, those cannons were still there.
Yeah.
We were still making.
No, I tell you who worked on it. Well, maybe. I do remember some in Korea War, but I didn't work on it.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember I can remember somebody working on that, and Arnold Hanson, did you know him?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He was over some of that. And he and I hit it off pretty good. And I think on the Korean War, they made a setup, and somebody told me, and they put somebody else on it, and they said Arnold Hanson said he wanted you to be on it. And I didn't know anything about it. That's the last I heard of it.
Okay.
I can't remember who they put on that.
All right.
It wasn't near as big a setup it was.
No.
42.
No. We'll eventually run that down.
And trying to think who they had. So anyway, I wasn't on it.
Okay. Now let's see. 53. That's about when I got there. That's the way the plant looked. And then you kept on in the press shop, so you had all of this area back in here then at that time. Yeah.
And 27A.
Right. 56 and all that
56,
sort of
52,
thing that you had.
34.
Right. Had to work on. 60. See, they don't change a lot now that the plant's pretty well full of.
The thing, yeah.
Full of. Well, we expanded 37 eventually here and put the paint shop in it, and that
Shop went 37.
that must have been about 63 when we did the paint shop thing, because that's when we built this little paint building out here. You may remember.
That's the mixing
The
room.
mixing room, right?
The big tanks.
Yeah, yeah. So that must have been about the time when you were describing the paint shop.
Yeah, we set that up too.
Okay. And 65, 66. They're changing there. Now we added 37A, that extra building out the side for more paint capacity. And 70, you're gone. So I'll quit there. Then the other thing which I dragged out, George, you want another cup of coffee? That's probably getting cold by now. Because I found a few pictures of model boards. I didn't find. Here's a bunch of guys.
Oh, I got that picture.
Standing around a model board.
Let me see. Who's this guy?
I think that's Skinner. We decided that was Skinner. Right?
Oh. On a hand.
No.
Jim Edwards?
Let's see. I think I wrote on the back who these guys are, or as many as we know. Yeah, Jim Edwards is next to Skinner. We don't know this guy or these guys around here.
I'll take a look. Get a little closer to it.
That's okay.
Phil Cartwright. Phil Cartwright, he was over plant layout.
This guy's Phil Cartwright?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he would be the second guy from the... Okay.
I don't know anybody else. Yeah, that's Jim Edwards. Isn't that Russ Hanson?
Well, I thought it looked a little bit like him.
Yeah, I think
it may very well be. I think you're probably right. In his younger days.
Mm-hmm. That looks like him. See, he was over
Mm-hmm.
in Monahan, in Burnham.
Yeah. That's Bill Meade.
Bob Barlow.
I thought that was Bill Meade.
No, that's Barlow.
Is that Barlow? Gosh, it looked like Bill Meade, but I'll change
Meade?
that.
I don't know him.
He was in time study.
You mean Lenz?
No, Bill Meade was a supervisor in the time study department.
Oh.
So you think that's Barlow, huh?
You mean Standards?
Standards, yeah.
Well, that was Fred Lenz.
Well, he was the boss, yeah. But Bill Meade was in there.
Oh, okay.
You thought that was Barlow?
It looks like Barlow.
Okay, that's Bob Barlow?
Robert. Let me take another look at it, but I'm pretty sure he would be there.
Well, it may
Yeah,
very well
that-
be him.
That's Bob. He was
Okay.
plant engineer.
All right.
You know these two guys. Is that Skinner?
That's Skinner.
Bob Barlow used to be a commander on a submarine.
Okay.
And he was these two fellows were in the Army. They knew each other in the Army.
Okay.
And when he got to be general manager, he brought Barlow in.
All right. Little help there. Okay. So that helps a little bit on those guys.
Those other fellows might be. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. I know this guy too. Nethaway used to be in the metallurgical lab.
Okay.
And this guy worked in the metallurgical lab, and his name is.
Which one is he? The guy on the end here?
Right here.
Okay.
I know him, and I can't think of his name right off bat.
He was
Well, he worked under Lloyd Pierce.
Yeah, Lloyd, I don't think is in that
Lloyd,
picture.
I don't see Lloyd.
No, because I would know Lloyd. Anyway, this guy is a lab person?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I might think of his name.
Okay. All right, well, that helps some more, George. Every time I pull one of these out and show them to somebody, I get a few extra guys, so it helps.
Nethaway was head of the lab
Uh-huh.
at one time, and then after Nethaway left, they put in Lloyd Pierce, and he came in with Skinner.
Okay.
I don't see him in there.
No, I would recognize Pierce, unless he's this guy in the back of one, in his head or something.
God, I know that guy's name. I can't think of it.
Okay.
You ever do that?
No, regularly, so don't worry about that. Okay, these guys I've all got, and I knew all those guys, and I'm sure you did too.
Oh, guys. Man.
Dave,
Niles.
Niles and Janetsky.
Oh.
No,
Janetsky,
Randy
yeah.
Janetsky, and Maury, and Day Cheney.
Yeah.
Remember Day Cheney?
Oh, for God's sake. No, I never seen that. Of course, that's probably after I was gone. No?
No. This was
Cheney.
Cheney was left in 57, I think it was.
Huh. What layout is that? Engine?
This is a tape of George Fernsler, tape number 2. Okay, now we're back on again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew all those guys. Now these, I think I figured out, these are in the actual plant, so they're probably not too of great interest to
There
you.
were
So,
a few in the actual
so
plant.
I'll put those all back in this folder here with this bunch. And this was all engine plant stuff, but it had some guys in it which I thought you would remember. Here's Don Gallen.
Cartwright.
I think that was Cartwright. That's George Redburn and Buckley,
Yeah.
Norm Buckley.
Yeah.
So I recognize those guys, and they were, and this is another picture of them again. I'm not sure what they were doing, but we decided they were all working in the model boards. And this was all engine plant stuff, and that was Bob Summers, young Bob Summers when he was kind of young.
Saw him out the party.
Yeah, I had too.
He went over to engineering.
Yes, he left and went. Now here is a mob scene. And I don't know whether you recognize any of those people in there or not. Maybe hard to do without glasses, but we found a few guys in there that we recognize. Here's Bob Russell way back there with his looking over the back. And I think, see, that might be Russ Hansen right there.
Yeah, kind of looks like him.
And
Gee.
I don't know who else we
This
found.
during the war?
Yeah, I think it was 51-ish because we think
This is Cartwright again.
Okay, let's see if I got him down there. John Coleman, yeah, Cartwright we got here in the far
John
right.
Coleman.
John Coleman is here right there.
Yeah, Frank Hager in there.
Uh,
They worked together.
didn't see him, but it's possible there's so many guys in there.
This must have been after I
This
left.
is Plant 3, about 1951. So you wouldn't have seen, you might not have seen that
I wasn't
plant.
at Plant 3
Yeah.
right now. Plant 3.
Yeah, Plant 3, not 2.
No. Well, Plant 2.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have anything to do with Plant 3.
Yeah, this was the I think the jet engine.
Porter was over the place.
Yeah, and Al recognized a few of these guys that I got off of there, so. Okay, so that's that bunch. And then, here are some, about 1950, press plant model boards. This is building 37, I think. And these are the two high bays in 37.
Yeah.
And we're looking towards the north end of that. See, here's the train track that came in.
Oh, what was shipping out of there?
Well, it says storage, and let's see if I can read that. Steel storage, that says. So that must have been where we were storing raw steel in those days. Oh yeah, because here's the little A-frame racks that we used to store them with. You remember that in 37? Used to pile up the coils inside the building there.
Yeah. Coiled steel.
Mm-hmm. And this is then going a little further to the east. Here's 34 with all those little presses that you set
Yeah.
up.
That's
Okay.
oh, yeah.
So that's,
See here. You can't. Well, you can see they're
Yeah,
not. They're
sure, the
not
little
right angle. They're on the
right,
angle.
and you see the little conveyors coming out the back that you talked about. And this is the powerhouse, which is down in where the compressors were. You remember those?
I can remember Cal Berry run that.
He was kind of the supervisor down in that area. Uh-huh. Let's see, this is the south end of 37 and 34 over here. Uh-huh. See, do you ever remember any what I'll call hammer work that was done down in the plant?
Hammer?
Like with these little...
Strap hammers?
yeah, like a strap hammer,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Building 27B.
27B. What were those used on? You remember?
They use those if they had a wrinkle or something on the fender, to salvage the fender.
Oh, okay.
It was a tall machine, and they'd around the front end of the fender, they'd hang this over an anvil,
Yeah.
and that little strap hanger would go bang, 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 bang. Oh, yeah. They had three of them. Salvage operations.
Okay. All right.
Strap hangers, they call them. The reason is for strap hangers, I don't know whether they worked on a spring or a strap, but they...
But they made a heck of a racket.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sound like a woodpecker.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this I think is. I'm not sure where that is. Again, it's all in the press shop. I think maybe this is 56. Yeah, I think those are the 56 presses. This may be the hood stuff that you had mentioned. Oh, I know where I'm looking here now. This is 52.
No, yeah, this is 52. I was going to
52,
say, it's
yeah,
not...
52.
It's not the hoods or fenders.
Yeah.
And...
This, I'm sure, is the railroad track that used to come into the back of 50...
52 in the southeast corner.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I like it. This is something. Huh. Boy. Here's the stairs, goes up the catwalk.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Ah, here, that's 52.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just some more shots of the same thing. Here's remember the tanks in 130, the old Prime and Von Wright stuff that was in that area. So I think maybe this is the wall that was at the end of 56.
Oh, these are...
Yeah, these would have been the rows in 56, wouldn't they? That's what that is. Yeah, this is the one high bay in 56, and these are the low bays. And it's more of the same. What this is, the big picture. Oh, I remember this is a big picture of the small press shop.
Yeah, 34.
Okay. Now here's a railroad track that comes in along 34.
These are your scrap pits.
Okay.
This is B, like this. This would be north.
Right. Uh-huh. And now those were the scrap pits you were telling me about, or is that a different set of scrap pits?
Well, they added on to those. I think they had baled up here, and they used to have shavings and stuff in here.
Okay, now this scrap pit is different than the one that was over on the other side of the Building 40 next to the engine plant. There was a scrap pit over there.
I don't know about that one. I remember a pit over there. I'm not very clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the engine plant. Or the,
So Building 40 was over here,
yeah.
and then this was all of that layout work that you talked about that you had done in the small press area. And these...
Gee, get all the stock around it, you can't see the presses.
Right. Pretty busy place, wasn't it? At least on the model board it was.
See, this worked out good. See, what we would do, we'd get a press here, get them set, mark them all out, get it moved, set up, and then work up and down the line. We did that in 3 days, right around 3 days.
Busy time.
John Dykstra was, I think Harry Beeman was plant engineering there.
He may have been. I can figure that out because I've got supervision charts back to the 40s. So, yeah, let's see. That looks like a prime tank somewhere or something. First floor. This must have been 27A, maybe. Second floor.
Second floor, view.
Sure, a lot of ovens and things.
That might be 30s. No, it can't be second floor 37 because we
No.
don't have a second floor.
So that's got to be 27A. This must have been. This must have been when we put in that paint shop, maybe. It's all about the same picture anyway. And then there's the, see, I think this is building 130 we're looking down into. And these are the old the old prime tanks that we used to have in there.
Yeah.
Because I remember walking through this aisle here and watching guys hanging on.
Those might be prime tank. Yeah, probably. They don't look familiar to me.
Yeah, this would have been, I'm thinking this is in the 50s. Yeah, it's all about the same there. Okay. Well, let's see, George. The only other thing I'd like to capture is, I should capture your address, your home address. Okay, what is that? What's your address, George?
901 Moores River Drive.
901 Moores River. Okay, zip code?
48910.
48910, and your phone number over there?
484-2387.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to share with us?
I probably have a lot to tell you, but I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, then I'll shut off our...
I didn't think it'd give you too much good, but...
Oh,